Hey guys, it's Elena and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a biggie for me. I have never done anything like this before, as you can probably see by the title and the thumbnail that you clicked on. I am doing an interview today with somebody who is on a TV show, Statler Riley. I connected with her on social media. She was on the show 90 Day Fiance, if you guys have seen it, and basically was villainized, in my opinion, severely misunderstood by not only the producers but also the audience for her neurodivergence. She is somebody who has both ADHD and autism, and ultimately I feel like she was just completely being herself. She was an easy target, and I wanted to get to know her, the real her, without the cameras, without the producers and all of that, and really just get to know the real Statler. This conversation was so enlightening into reality TV and how neurodivergent people really can fall victim to the manipulations of reality TV. I know this is something very different for me. I hope you guys enjoy it. Yeah, let's get started. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This is something very new for me, this kind of setup. We've got the microphones and we've got different angles right here. So this is very exciting, and I've got a special guest with me, Statler. Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. This is my first podcast / interview / YouTube / everything. This is your first. This is my first.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Elena, and I have autism. And Statler, who are you?
I am Statler, and I have ADHD and autism.
I am a big fan of trashy reality TV. And that sounded insulting. I didn't mean it.
It is trash. It's complete trash. Knowing that it is still agreement.
I realized that there was a lot of similarities between Statler and I. It was very, very cool to see someone who has a neurospicy brain being depicted on TV. I myself have just moved from New Zealand to Toronto, and that was quite a big change in my life. And so we got to talking on social media. You came to Toronto, and here we are to kind of talk about being neurospicy, the show, travel, and everything in between.
Absolutely insane. Yeah, because I feel like most people with, I say neurospice, you probably say neurodivergent, but don't travel. Period. Let alone leave their country. And that's something we both have done. So that's something that I feel is rare, and yeah, something we have in common.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly was something that I kind of wrote off for myself as being something that I never wanted to do, never had any desire to do, because the fear of the unknown, guys, it's pretty wild to our brains. And yeah, I was quite content just being in my little home, but I changed that up, and you've done a lot. You've done a hell of a lot more traveling than I have. How many countries have you actually been to at this point?
I've been to 19 countries. Last year, I went to, I think, 15 countries in the span of probably a year and a half.
Wow.
So it was pretty intense. Yeah, but like you, I also never saw myself traveling. I never wanted to travel. I had zero desire to travel. I was also very content just being in my cave, very comfortable and safe. And, when my friends would invite me out, I would just try to come up with an excuse as quickly as possible to not.
I think that's going to be quite a shocking thing to go from you don't even want the invite out to suddenly 15 countries. How do we get there?
It's insane.
How does that happen? How do the people at home do this?
Well, I think for my portion, I fell in love, I guess. So love took me across borders. And really the only option for us long distance dating was, either we remain long distance or we move together. But because of the visa issue. Like, I could only stay in England where she was for like 3 months, I think, at a time, without having a visa. And it's super hard to get a visa. Like, I don't have a doctorate. I'm not like, some big shot. So it would have been really impossible for me to get a visa. So what we had to do is keep moving from country to country,
Right.
throughout like Europe and the UK. And we even went to like Southeast Asia. So it was just constantly on the move. And not only that, but like we lived in a van. So we lived in this super tiny place. I went from living in this massive apartment, which was so comfortable, had like the creature comforts of like a shower, a bathtub, a wash
All the
machine.
luxuries.
Yes, an ice maker, like things you don't even think about, like turning on the tap and boom, there's running water. It's just there are so many luxuries that I didn't even consider until leaving all of it behind. But like I feel like that is a crazy thing for even like a neurotypical person to do. Like
Yeah.
that is insane. And I think like a part of kind of what also made me able to do it was I do have ADHD.
Right.
So I am like, oh, you have an idea? Let's do it. So like I kind of am able to have both sides of very different coins.
Yeah.
So with the autism, I just kind of want to like stay put, stay comfortable. With ADHD, it's like, you have an idea, let's do it.
For me, I was able to move overseas with the comfort knowing that I was coming to my best friend. And so that was what kind of took me. Again, it was like a person took us
Right.
to leave our comfort zones, I guess, is the similarity here. But basically what I'm trying to point out with this segment is that it can be done, regardless of how anxiety provoking the unknown is. Traveling and leaving your comfort zone, it can be done. But I think the biggest takeaway that I've learnt just recently with traveling is you just kind of have to do it and throw yourself in the deep end and freak out and panic and stress and have all that, do all those things, but still power on through.
Yes, I would agree with you. It's not like after going to so many countries, my anxiety is gone. Like, it's still a thing.
Yeah.
Do I have more confidence, though, the more I do it and the more I do it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of like a goal that people could potentially have is like, okay, I've done this step and now this step. And it's like you're slowly climbing these stairs and all of a sudden you're there and you're like, whoa, I feel accomplished.
Yeah.
And like, look how far I've come. I did one country or one state or one, place that's just outside of my comfort zone. And all of a sudden that like builds up your confidence and boom, suddenly you're just killing it.
Yeah. I think what made New York, particularly for me, a little bit easier was having people that supported me, one neurotypical, one neurospicy. The challenges, I think, were when I was getting overwhelmed, and the neurotypical that I was with just found the enjoyment of New York, found it easy to maneuver her way through the city. I fucking love that. Go you, wish I could be that, but that's just not my experience at all. How did you find navigating the world with your neurotypical ex?
Ugh. Oh dear. It was rough, and I'm like so glad that you had supportive people in New York City for you.
Love you guys.
I did not. Yeah, my ex was not supportive in that way at all. And that should have been kind of like an early sign for me that maybe this relationship wasn't going to go well. And it's not even something that I like considered in a relationship. I never really thought that like you should date somebody who understands or is willing to understand your neurospice. And so I never considered that. And so when it became very clear that she kind of like didn't even fully like believe in it, it was,
that's not good.
it was tough. Yeah. Because she kind of, was just kind of saying things like, how sometimes people say like, you're being dramatic, like you're faking it, like why are you anxious? There's no need for you to be anxious right now. Why are you having like a panic attack or a meltdown? Like what do you mean sensory overload? Like what are you talking about? Like I don't get it.
Yeah.
And so that was difficult because I kind of kept it to myself because I didn't want to seem like too much. I didn't want to overwhelm her in a way, by my overwhelm. And so I definitely kept it to myself, bottled it up, and that just destroys you on the inside. So I was just struggling. Just lots of, all I can say is I had a lot of anxiety the whole time and nobody really to talk to about it.
Which I think is tough when you are traveling. It's meant to be a good time. It's meant to be, taking in new sights. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, feeling like you're having to bottle things up, to not stress somebody else out like that just doesn't make for a good environment.
Right, no, definitely not. Yeah. I feel like when you are traveling, because you don't have like your safety and your like comforts.
Yeah.
You really need to be able to rely on another person if you are traveling with another person for them to kind of like be your safety. And I know that's like not their responsibility 100%, but you definitely don't want them to feel like not a safe space.
Yeah.
Because then who do you have? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old were you when you were actually diagnosed with ADHD and autism?
So I was diagnosed twice with ADHD. The first time I was 21, but I didn't believe it because everyone else in, college was getting diagnosed with ADHD. Everyone was getting, prescribed Adderall. And so, I took the Adderall. Honestly, it did kind of like work for me, but I just didn't really believe that, like, I was just like, everyone else is getting diagnosed with it. So, and I didn't really like to take like medication. So I just kind of wrote that off. And then like literally 10 years later, when I was 31,
oh my gosh,
I was so overwhelmed by everything, just everything, life, like registering my car, basic things like going out in public, going to the grocery store, having friendships, maintaining relationships. I was struggling in literally every aspect of my life. And, I was on TikTok scrolling and I see these videos about like ADHD and I'm like, I really resonate with these and I don't want to. And it was just like, maybe I should just get tested. And it was like it was a year-long wait to get even tested for it. The testing process was really long. Like the doctor interviewed my family, my friends. There was like the QB test. There was all kinds of tests, long interviews with me as well. And then finally he's like, yes, you actually have tested in the top percentage of women your age. You have ADHD to the extreme.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh, and I was like, are you sure? And he was like, oh yeah. And then actually it wasn't until I did this show the first time, so many people were commenting, I think you have autism as well. And so I actually went back to my doctor who had diagnosed me with ADHD and I said, hey, do you think I have autism? And he said, yeah, I already diagnosed you with that. And I was like, what? He had diagnosed it with me. He had diagnosed me with it. He had written it on the paper, but my like main hyper focus was the ADHD. So it's all I saw.
Oh my God.
Maybe like the black and white thinking. Yeah. Like it's literally boom, all I read. So I didn't even see the autism piece. When I finally, saw it, it clicked. It was like, there's the other half of the puzzle. So yeah, that made a lot of sense. And I think it made a lot of sense to like the people that were watching me.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I think 31 years of going through undiagnosed is a fucking long time.
That's a long. I mean, how old were you when you?
So I was 25. So it sounds like it was the same year for both of us. Oh. So I love that. I'm just bringing it back to that point of navigating relationships once you have the diagnosis. I've really kind of only been with neurotypical people in my life and have never really considered, honestly, dating someone who was neurodivergent, but it's something now with a bit more understanding and a little bit more acceptance of myself. Like I've come to realize like, oh, maybe having someone who naturally just understands rather than me having to tell them at every turn, this is how I'm feeling, because it can feel so overwhelming. I can't imagine what that must have been like, navigating this relationship. You've got these new diagnoses at the time. And then you've got a camera crew in amongst all of that, and then to watch it all back and then have people's opinions, and there's a lot of people are saying a lot of things, and there's a lot of hate, a lot of mean things, and it's tough for someone who has a very similar brain to you to know that if I was on a TV show, I also probably would be seen as the villain, like you've been portrayed, just because you behave or your brain works a little bit differently.
It's really been upsetting to see how many people don't like me because of my neurospiciness. And it's upsetting because it's a community. Do you know what I mean? It's not just me.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of people, you know, I like relate to the people watching this as well. And, you know, they relate to me. And, you know, they're in my comments, and they're parents of kids with autism or ADHD, or they're, you know, grown adults who have recently been diagnosed, or, you know, all kinds of people, all walks of life. And to know that, like, I'm representing them is great. But then for them, because I know they're also reading these comments where it's just people are just mean.
Yeah.
They're just mean. They're saying, oh, you're just doing it as an act. Oh, like, your anxiety is not real.
Yeah.
Oh, you're just trying to be quirky like that girl on New Girl. And it's like, this is not an act. This is not a character I'm playing. Like, this is me. I struggle with things. I have meltdowns. Like, this is me. And so it's tough. I guess maybe I was naive, but I never really thought that, you know, neurotypical people in society as a whole would, like, dislike us.
Oh, yes. We are naturally not liked.
See, and I didn't know that. Because I'm like, in my head, it's like, wow, my brain is awesome. Yeah. Like, and all of these other people's brains are freaking amazing. Like, we have great creative brains. We're able to hyper-focus. We're able to empathize with, you know, a rat. We're able to have this, like, deep empathy with creatures and all kinds of things, and it's really cool. And to be disliked for being honest or authentic sucks. Like, that really sucks. It hurts my heart for our community.
Oh, completely. I think that this is why, for me, it's important to actually show you in a different way, actually giving you a voice that hasn't been edited to the point of this villain narrative that has been spun for you, I guess. Are you able to kind of walk us through, if you've seen the show, there's a particular scene that I think a lot of people had a lot of things to say about. The airport meltdown scene. There was so much that I'm sure happened behind the scenes, but what was seen was someone who was overwhelmed and what people were terming as rude and just really mean to your ex-partner, and you were just labeled as basically being this horrible girlfriend.
Yeah, I definitely look cold in this scene. And I think a lot of people can relate to looking cold when they're having a meltdown, or if they're having, you know, or they're having a panic attack or something. Yeah, and I do appreciate, like, having the chance to not be edited that much, because not only is there editing, you have a producer there who, you know, kind of is like defining your character in this show, and however they want you to appear is how you will appear. But yeah, there was so much else happening in that scene, like, before, you know, I hadn't slept that whole week. As well as that, like, I'm kind of finding out that the person that I'm going to be with hasn't been super honest with me about finances. So that kind of feels like a bomb has been dropped on me literally the day before I'm set to leave. On top of that, you know, I don't think I'd eaten because I had such bad anxiety that, like, my stomach just was like, no, not happening. And on top of that, yeah, you do have 3 cameras in your face at all times. You have people doing lighting, you have audio guys, you have producers, you have so many people. And then add on top of all of that, also when I'm stood in the airport, there's just this crowd of strangers just watching this all go down, you know, thinking that I'm like Angelina Jolie or something, like shooting the next big film or something. Oh, and prior to this, I'd also been put in a room for like 3 hours after traveling 10 hours on a plane. I'm put in this freezing cold room.
Wow.
In the airport, because they hold us. They have to get everything set up before they do these scenes. People forget that. They think we just like go off the airplane and we rock and there's a bunch of cameras there and yay. Like, no, they have to get set up for that. So it's like 3 hours of me just sitting in the cold. My suitcase had been lost. Like, it's just one thing after another. My overwhelm is growing. I just want to sleep and eat and like disappear in a hotel room. But we're also on these like filming deadlines. So it's like, you don't really have time for all of that. Like, we have to get in the van. We have to go. Let's start going.
Yeah, I think that there are 2 points that I want to just come back to on this. The first one is, I think with reality TV, like, there is this kind of thought behind it that you're kind of living your life and there's just a camera, just a camera guy behind you, just filming you, and your reactions is just, this is just how life is playing out. And
like documentary style.
Yeah, completely. But from what I'm hearing, there's so much that goes into it, having to get the lighting and, the reactions and holding you in a freaking room after a flight. Like, those things don't happen to the average person. Coming back to my travel experiences, I found it really, really difficult to be able to identify how I felt. So I struggle with something called alexithymia. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. I'll put it up on the screen, but basically it's just the inability to identify how you feel. I think it's basically come from neglecting your own needs and your own emotions because you have to cater to everybody else to fit in.
Right.
And so as I'm packing up my stuff, doing the same things that you were doing without the camera crew, I'm saying these goodbyes. I'm aware that I'm saying goodbye for who knows how long. It's exciting. It's sad. I've got this massive journey ahead and I just didn't know how to identify it. Put a camera crew in all of that, like, I just don't know how I would have behaved either. And I think, as someone who has always been told how monotone I sound, how lifeless my face looks, no doubt I would have been cast with the same narrative. But it's just really, really unfortunate that there isn't that kind of understanding in that background. I mean, you know what happened in those scenes, and you know how you felt, and you know that your intentions weren't bad, but I mean, people are there to make good TV, trashy TV, and unfortunately you were the brunt of it in that scene. And I just wanted to give you a moment to explain that one, because people are fucking harsh.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. I feel like the justice sensitivity in me comes out because people are always like, just let it go. And it's like, well, no, my inner child is upset about this. Like, no, like, I want to defend myself. And it sucks when like the whole truth isn't told or it's just a straight up lie. I definitely want to like defend myself. I feel like I've spent so much of my life like not speaking up for myself, and just kind of like, doing this. And so now it's like I have a voice and I'm wanting to use it. So that's awesome. Thank you.
Well, I think anyone would do the same for themselves as well. Like, if they felt they were being painted in the worst light that wasn't true, it would take, I don't know what kind of person would be able to just sit there and take that and not say anything.
That's funny, though, that you said you have, like, the monotone voice, because I do, too, and it's very rare that I meet another woman who has, like, a monotone voice and the, like, stone face where it's like,
we're really entertaining for the viewers. I think the reason that quite a lot of people, a lot of neurospicy people resonated with you, were excited by seeing someone with autism and ADHD on TV, is because really the only kind of portrayals you see on TV is like love on the spectrum, and that's one type of person, but as it says in the name, it's a spectrum. And I feel as though you and I are on whatever end of the spectrum we are. I feel as though, like, I relate to that. I relate to you. I find it very easy to talk to you. We're giving each other eye contact, which is something that, you don't really see that in the media.
Yeah. You tend to see extremes.
Yes.
Yeah, and you rarely see. So with somebody with like my diagnosis as well, who has ADHD and autism, you will not see that.
Yeah.
Straight up, you won't see that. You will see either extreme ADHD bouncing off the walls, and that is very like boy-centered, I feel.
Yeah.
Whereas females definitely present differently. And then you see autism presented on one extreme end of the spectrum. So it's very rare to see degrees of that and then also both. Like that's...
Oh, for sure. Did producers or writers try and make you seem crazy as well? Were they playing into that?
Oh yeah, for the first season, when all I said was I have ADHD, they were like, "Okay, can you act that out?" And I was like, "What?" And they literally had me like running around the apartment, like doing things.
Yeah.
And I was like, "This isn't what I would normally do." But okay, I guess you have to see it. Like, that's not what I normally do.
Right.
Like, I definitely can be hyperactive. Like, I just say the most random things. Like, whatever is in my head comes flying out. So I have it in that way. But am I like moving a lot? No. Like, and also I feel like autism and ADHD or both are not really portrayed in reality TV much. You don't really see that. What's interesting though is the more and more cast members I talk to and meet that are on other reality shows and the reality show that I've been on, the more I'm like, holy cow, you are super neurospicy, darling. Even if you don't have the diagnosis, you're there. And I feel like a lot of reality TV does tend to prey on neurospicy people because we are easy to manipulate. And so
naive and believing.
Yes, I do believe there are a lot of undiagnosed, either autistic or ADHD or a mixture of both people that are in reality TV. So
I'm sure I completely agree with that because I'm sure it makes for easy targets. You know, you can almost manipulate them into doing whatever you need to make great TV.
yes,
Because we take them at their word and
Yep.
and believe, you know, if they're saying this will be great, you'll do so well, and then shit.
Well, and we also do make great TV because we're interesting and weird and
Yeah.
different, and we can go on and on about that. And to like a neurotypical adult of a certain age, that is weird. And that comes across as great TV.
Yeah. Almost you can look down on them like, oh my God, so
Like, why are you
childish.
being a child? Yeah, exactly. And it's really like,
Yeah.
I like collecting dead bugs because they're super interesting to me. Do you want to learn about the history of fire ants? Like,
So just coming back to that, neurodivergent people do make for good TV, entertaining TV, but the other side of that is people take that online and like to talk about the show. You know, I would often go on to Reddit or Twitter after watching the show and just seeing the influx of people's opinions. Everybody's got an opinion. How do you deal? I'm more asking for myself here because you know, I struggle with rejection sensitive dysphoria. Really tough for me to have just one hate comment. You know, that's what sticks with me. If I get 20 comments, just the one negative will stick with me. How have you been able to maintain your life, your sense of self, with almost this influx of people weighing in on you, your character, your relationship? How do you do that?
honestly, it's coming out of the first season was really tough. Like, the first season was really tough. I didn't talk to any other cast members at the time. It was very lonely. It was extremely lonely. And, you know, I was still with my partner at the time, and she was getting no hate. Like, she was considered like a saint. So I would tell her, I would be like, I am struggling. And she would be like, can't relate. Like, people love me. I'm great. And meanwhile, like, I would just go on these like doom scrolls of like putting my name in Google or Reddit and just be like, oh God, this is really bad. And I, you know, at first would definitely comment back and just try to fight back and just like defend myself.
Yeah.
But eventually I realized like you're just talking to people, their minds can't be changed. They don't know the full story about you. So I think I now have an easier time letting it just roll off my back because I'm like, you don't know me. I know me.
Yeah.
And I think all of this has also made me like more confident just in myself. Because now I do feel like I have my voice now, and I feel like I am for some reason kind of like representing this community of people, either adoptees or lesbians or autistic or ADHD people. So I kind of feel like I need to kind of like put my best foot forward. So typically now, sometimes I still get into arguments when I really have to defend myself. When I really feel like I need to
injustice.
Yes, when I really feel like I need to defend myself, I do that. But for the most part, I just like read half of it, delete, and block because I don't want that person anywhere near me. I don't want them getting updates from me. Also, I think having other cast members and being able to talk to them has been really freaking helpful. We call it like trauma therapy, like group therapy. And so like this past season, I've been able to because I had already known what the experience was going to entail, I was just like, hey, let's create a group chat. Like from the start, nice to meet you. Let's create a group chat before the episodes have even started. And we did, and we were able to form, friendships, and we were able to help each other through it. Like,
wow.
We were able to. So instead, usually I would watch an episode and just doom scroll through Twitter or Reddit and just be like, oh God, people hate me. And now I like watch the episode with my castmates, and we're all just like, you look great, you look beautiful in this scene, I love your outfit. And so it's super positive and super kind. And so I don't think I would have been able to I have the best freaking castmates, man. So I'm lucky in that. You have to really rely on your community of people. And I think that's not just for like you're a really like a small reality TV guest. It's for like other autistics, other ADHD people. You have to find your community. And no matter what other people say, you're not alone. And you really have to rely on each other because we are who we have.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's awesome to talk to you, because I don't talk to other neurospicy people much. I keep my circle extremely small.
Yeah.
And so it's rare that I'm able to talk to somebody like you. So I'm very honored and happy to do that. Feel like we relate on a lot.
Yeah, we absolutely do. And thank you for sharing all of that. And just to further on from that point, it's funny because we are lone wolves most of the time. But we are also human beings who are naturally social. We need people to live, to survive. We've learnt to be lone wolves because we've learnt that most of the time people are not going to understand us, and this kind of brings out depression, and that's why unaliving yourself the rates are so high for neurospicy people. For me, currently, just with this move over to Toronto, I've been able to kind of involve myself a lot more online, and subsequently my community is building with neurodivergent people, and it's quite amazing what it can do. So I would say that's one of the biggest things that I've learned in just accepting, understanding, being sure of yourself and your character and the life that you live, is having other people who can validate you and be like, fuck yes, I live the same, or I feel the same as you. So that's really amazing that in this particular circumstance of being on the show, that not a lot of people have any kind of understanding to. You've been able to find just people who get it.
Yeah.
And nice people as well, because I'm sure there are many different types of personalities on reality TV. So to find good ones.
Yes. If you can find your community, even if it's online, freaking do it, man.
Oh yeah. I mean,
have some kind of, because it is a lonely world. And it's really sad that the unaliving rate is so high.
Completely. I think you bring up a really good point, a really important point, talking around mental health. I think that is a nice segue to the big important thing that you are doing for reality TV stars. Do you want to talk about that?
It's such a big word. Like, we're just reality TV
People.
like people, yeah.
People that signed up for a show.
Oh no. Yeah, so I am starting a podcast. Well, very exciting. And it basically is just I'm going to try and make reality TV people relatable, because I feel like we are so judged, and basically we get like we get like 4 weeks of our lives recorded or something. Do you know, like a very short period of our lives recorded. It's heavily produced. Our characters are written a certain way. It's not always accurate. And then like at the end of this show, you get like a very small, like couple of episodes where you do like a tell-all or a reunion, which is the one chance you get to like speak up for yourself and say stuff and kind of clear the air. And sometimes, like, even that is heavily edited, so you don't get to say everything you want to do, and there's a time crunch. So this podcast is also, called The Tell-All.
Wow, that makes sense.
Yeah. Which is when, I'm going to try to give a voice and give other cast members the opportunity to be able to just kind of talk about not even really stuff, maybe just a little bit about the reality TV experience, but also just to tell me a bit about their lives. I'm very curious about just people in general.
Yeah.
And it's this thing where like we kind of see reality TV people because we think that we're watching a documentary. Yes. We kind of think that we see them as they are. What you see is a very small portion of their lives, and you don't get to see all of the stuff before and all of the stuff like after.
Yeah.
And so I want to give them an opportunity to like talk about that stuff. Because humanize them, yeah. Because also there's like so much that has happened in my life before being on this show.
Yeah.
That would also make a great show. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think it's important that we humanize people on reality shows, because they're not like actors. With actors, they're celebrities, and you just kind of like know that that's fake. Like,
reality TV stars, it's kind of this weird middle ground, because it's not a documentary, it's not based in truth, but it's also not entirely fake. It's like there's a degree of both.
Yes.
And such a small portion of the person's life, as you say, is filmed and put out to the world, and then you're meant to carry on. Whether that narrative is good or bad, you have to carry on with that narrative, basically.
Yes.
If you break up with the person, if your life completely changes and then you meet other people, that's what people have access to, is that small
one Google search away of your name, and they think that they know everything about you.
That's right.
And that's especially hard with like dating,
future employment, future friendships.
But also, it definitely does, like, you are kind of like left to the wolves after this.
Yeah.
Like,
to me, it's quite amazing that this hasn't been done before, because I know, particularly with the show that you're on and other shows, there is such a hype with social media. Everyone has to weigh in on the different people, and everyone's got an opinion. As I said,
there's so many podcasts about this show not done by cast members.
But it to me, it makes sense that the person who wasn't on the tell-all, the one who's neurospicy, who is completely herself and very, very honest, is going to be the one to actually ask the questions, have the conversations, because in amongst all of that, it's the neurospicy that has the biggest heart, the most amount of understanding, because
empathy,
we have been shat on our entire lives, basically, for being different. So there is this this need to understand people. And to me, I think you're going to be great at just getting through, allowing a safe space for people to open up, to share perhaps a side of them that wasn't seen at all, and completely change the narratives of some of the biggest villains on TV, or, some of the greatest, whatever, whoever you interview. So to me, I think it's quite an amazing thing, and I think you're going to do extremely well at it.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I think it's so important, because it does affect people who have been on shows. Like, it affects their mental health in big ways. I don't know if you know, like, the cast of Love Island, even like the host There are many people that have taken their lives because they cannot cope with everything that comes after. It is really intense. So I think being able to give people a voice and seeing more human and being more relatable to everyone else, like, I think that can be healing in a way to people who have been on these types of shows. So that's kind of like my main goal, because I know my mental health has been so affected by it, and having my like truth not told has been so affected by it, and being silenced has been so affected by it, that I'm like, I have to have a space for people to feel safe in all of that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that you're creating a new narrative for yourself and a new narrative for others, and changing the whole direction of this. Like, this was something that you signed up to, maybe having a lot more naivety because we're naturally just, naive people, got slammed on this show, and not sitting around and just taking that, like actually changing it. And I don't believe the show was your life. I think that was just the first stepping stone for everything else to come, truly.
I love that. I think that's beautiful. Yeah, it's weird that I feel like this is my calling.
Yeah.
But I do feel like this is now my weird, like, calling.
You kind of fell into it.
Yeah, no, totally by accident and not on purpose. And it's just...
It makes sense, though. It makes sense that it's a neurospicy person to do this, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying all of that and believing in me. And I'm looking forward to see you grow as well.
Thank you. So. Well, hopefully, I mean, this is completely all new to me. I'm not sure if I'm quite the interviewer.
Changing countries, starting all of this, you're killing it.
Thank you very much. I'm going to wrap that up there, because I'm going to be editing this for the rest of the year.
Oh god.
But thank you so much for joining me and opening up. And I know it's not something that is kind of comfortable, I'm sure, for you, but I think that you've done really well, and I think there's going to be a lot of people who are very excited to see what you've got in store.
Thank you. Yeah. You as well. I'm so excited to see you continue to grow.
Thank you. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to leave that there. I will link all of our social media platforms down below. Make sure to go follow the Tell All podcast. There'll be a few episodes up by now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.